Hey there, Wargamers. For this week's episode of my Tactical Tuesday series, I'd like to talk with you guys about Firewarrior Strike Teams. I will hopefully not deviate too much in terms of comparing them to the Breacher Squad, but I'd still like to discuss them nonetheless. The primary role of the Firewarrior Strike Team is to hang out in your deployment zone and to secure those objectives that are there. To help defend these, they've got a piece of war gear called a pulse rifle, which is range 30, strength 5, AP 5, and rapid fire. This is important to note because it gives you a very large threat bubble. For most deployment scenarios, you're looking at a 12-inch to 24-inch deployment, and adding to that a 30-inch range gives you some nice variability in terms of where you deploy and where you're actually going to be effective in firing. In addition to the standard loadout, the new strike teams also have access to the tactical support turrets, which come with the new kits. This is awesome because your Firewarrior Strike Teams are generally going to be a static unit that hang back and they don't really move. The tactical support turrets allow you to set up a static weapon that can fire either the missile pod or smart missile system, depending on what you've paid for. This is awesome because they don't move and your fire warriors aren't going to be moving, so it's a win-win scenario. This is a piece of war gear that makes sense for the strike team and almost never makes sense for the breachers. To help increase the effectiveness of at least one unit of your fire warriors on your gun line, I would suggest bringing in Cadre Fireblade. Now, you do have access to ethereals for the Tau, but I prefer Cadre Fireblade. He's got a little bit more survivability than an ethereal does, even if he doesn't bring all the synergetic effects. The special rule that makes Cadre Fireblade a really solid choice for attaching to a Firewarrior Strike Teams is an ability called Volley Fire. And essentially what this rule allows you to do is if Cadre Fireblade and every model in his unit remain stationary during the movement phase, their pulse rifles and pulse carbines each fire an additional shot in the shooting phase. So you've got range 30 guns at strength 5, AP 5 that now effectively get to shoot twice. If you couple this special ability in conjunction with a 12-man strike team utilizing some Pathfinder marker lights, you can really have an effective downrange firing unit that's specializing in taking out light vehicles and infantry models. Two of the other key selling points for using a Cadre Fireblade in a combined arms detachment are the fact that for an HQ choice, he clocks in at only 60 points and he's got 3 wounds. If you compare him to, say, a Space Marine Librarian, he's cheaper, albeit having a worse armor save, but he has 1 more wound and he's very synergetic. All in all, for 60 points, he's a great choice for helping out your strike teams. In my opinion, there are several key weaknesses for the Firewarrior Strike Teams. The first one is redundancies. The majority of the Tau Army units are effective at taking out infantry models with their strength 5 guns. Now, while you can specialize certain units for the Tau Army, bringing in a strike team is just, as I said before, it's redundant. If you're looking for something that's good at taking out infantry, you have a variety of other units, such as some of your suits and whatnot, to take stuff out. But if you're looking for a scoring unit that is also doubling as an effective anti-infantry unit, you've now got the Breacher Squads. They can get up in the units' faces and they can take them out very effectively. That basically defaults your Firewarrior Strike Teams to being static gunline models. And this is another downside to using them. They're kind of boring. In the previous edition of the Tau, the models looked great, but you didn't have any type of mobility for your scoring troop choices, so you sat back behind an Aegis defense line and you just shot stuff. It was just not fun to play with. In addition to being very static and just kind of being a one-trick pony, the strike squads are very reliant on having cover or some type of terrain. Now, you can use fortifications and Aegis defense lines, but anti-cover is pretty prominent right now in Warhammer 40k, and if I was going up against a Firewarrior Strike Team that was sitting behind cover, I would try and get up in there with my flamethrowers and take them out. Now, this leaves you with another option. You could think, well, why don't I just put him in a Devilfish, Justin? I'm like, alright, okay, that's a valid option. But if you're going to take a range 30 gun and put it into a Devilfish, you're basically giving up the whole purpose of that unit to begin with, which was to shoot at long ranges. If you're even going to consider bringing a Devilfish, you should be using Breachers and not Strike Teams. By comparison, the Breacher Squads, in conjunction with the Devilfish, provide your army with the mobility that the Strike Teams lack. Now, there's something to be said for the Strike Team's range and holding objectives in your deployment zone, but the safety that a Devilfish provides the Breachers is incomparable to for the safety that a cover save gives you. You have to go through the Devilfish's exterior plus its jinx saves, and then hope to get the guys inside, whereas an Aegis line or fortification is very limited on how effective it is at saving a unit. I would like to wrap this tactical discussion up with a few additional suggestions for helping out with your strike team usage. First of all, if you're not using Pathfinders already, I would suggest getting some. Not only do they boost every other unit in your army's effectiveness, they also help your strike teams as well. One of the big weaknesses with the Tau army is the ballistic skill is only a 3. If you're going to invest the points in strike teams, you might as well invest in the support systems to help them out. Also, I would consider your style of gameplay and your deployment when utilizing strike teams. If I was going to use strike teams, I would probably have several units of them hanging out behind my fortifications or my Aegis line or in cover, with the sole purpose of overlapping fire. And that is a valid tactic, especially with their range 30 guns, but it's also great for utilizing their supporting fire rule. If something's going to charge your lines and try and get your objectives, at least you do have the strike teams there to fire at the charging units. Finally, if you're going to run a static gun line with strike teams, you gotta expect casualties and plan for that. One of the things I like to do if I'm going to run strike teams is have some type of unit with interceptor in my back lines to protect them, particularly from Space Marine Deep Strikers. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please take a moment to subscribe. I'd also like to hear your comments and thoughts. If my suggestions or tactical analysis has helped you in some way, please sound off below. If I missed something, let me know. Let's have a discussion. I'd love to talk to you. Additionally, if you haven't already, please take a moment to like us on Facebook. This will allow you to stay up to date with all of our current promotions as well as our studio updates. Finally, I get paid to paint these models, and these Tau models were mine and I did paint them. If you'd like to have me to paint something for you, please take a moment to click Quote Request now. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, happy wargaming.